don't know why he's placing himself alone in the sense of like being a lone wolf. I don't know why this is coming through.
Yes, that would be my grandfather, and his name was Dudley. Lone wolf is a very good way to describe my grandfather too. And it's funny too because that is so my grandfather.
But the thing that's coming through with this is someone who we would not have been able to see maybe as being emotionally unwell.
Yeah.
The thing is, and the way this comes across, is he's having me acknowledge that he was not in a coherent state of mind around the time that he passed. And he's actually having me acknowledge self-medication. And he's apologizing because he feels like the person he was when he was not self-medicating was very different than the person that he was when he was self-medicating. And I don't know if we know about the self-medication.
Yeah.
Or they may have dealt with a specific addiction problem. But there's an acknowledgement of like, I feel like I use something to kind of mask this pain.
From what I know, he dealt with mental illness, but it was something I don't think he was very, I think he felt a lot of shame about it and didn't really, I don't think towards the end I think he stopped taking his medication. And when my grandmother died, they were together for so long, they were inseparable, that I think he was so, you know, distraught. We think we found out he stopped taking his medication, but we never really got a clear answer, so that's...
Yeah.
My grandmother and grandfather were together for an extremely long time. They were inseparable. And so when my grandmother died, it jarred the whole family, but it really was jarring for my grandfather. He didn't know what to do, so he sort of went down this path that Tyler picked up on that it wasn't him, and ultimately ended up in a very tragic death. So my family were never really given the healing and the closure that they wanted and that we all need.
So sometimes I'll work with objects. They can sometimes kind of help bring in a connection.
As far as what I brought today, there's something we've always been wondering about. There was a scenario, and I can't be too specific, but there's mystery behind it. I'm intrigued to know, as is my family, I'm sure. I brought two things with me today. They together have the answer.
Okay, I'm gonna hold on to this. Okay, this is weird. The interesting thing is I have these two that are coming through, and they're coming through together. They're like locking arms to me, which is always a way of saying like, we're here, we're together, but they're like a big primary emphasis that I'm gonna talk about. They're having me bring up your, I think, maternal grandfather. Let me look.
Well, that's really the question. We want to discover what occurred,
right?
You know, in this specific moment, and there's only two people that would really know, and
right.
They've both passed on.
Let's keep going. This is interesting.
The speculation from the stories that I got from my grandfather is that he was arrested for her murder.
God.
She died at 17, and she had just had my mother. She was found with her hands tied behind her back, hung in the basement. Wow. So there was a fall.
Sure.
Just in a different way. And then after that, he was cleared. And they didn't really have enough evidence to say it was you that did it. And that's one of the things that we all want to know as a family. Did she do it herself, or did he do it? The question is, can we find the truth?
Yeah, so let's see. My symbol for alone, alone, alone.
Like she was felt super alone?
Like, it's just coming through in a way of like, I don't want to be with Grandpa. Like, and I don't, that, in the way this is coming across, but it's like an excitement of like, leaving, or what this is, but there's a feeling
Very
of like,
possible.
I should have been able to stick around so that I would have the time to exit the situation. I don't think he killed your grandmother. I don't think it's that kind of thing.
Right.
Regardless of how
she
this
made
is
the choice.
mishandled. Right.
And there was nobody else potentially involved either.
Based on what I can see, there's no indications of anyone else
other than herself.
They're bringing me to a family thing, and there's very different energy. Like, there's some energy I really like, and then there's some energy that I can tell was a lot more traumatic in the way that it comes through. From your mom's side, like any questions that you might have about anybody or anything along those lines?
Yes, there is a big question on on Mom's side.
Gotcha. There's an aspect that comes through with this that I would describe as basically feeling unresolved. It's their way of saying like, hey, I have a message, something about my passing wasn't right, and I need to come forward and bring it up. But I feel like I do have to talk about males in the family. This man is kind of the one that I feel like I initially have to tune into.
Yeah.
Do you know of a passing happening where we weren't able to like get the details from the person who died, but we found this out like later in life?
Everything you're saying, I don't think has been resolved for anyone in the family, and
Makes sense.
so there is a hole there.
Gotcha. Would he have a connection to your mother?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think how to word this. It almost comes through as like an apology towards your mother. There's something about a passing and knowing that a passing would look a certain way, but it's due to something else. Does that make sense in what you know? Okay.
Yeah. I don't have to say a name, do I?
No, absolutely not.
It's,
Yeah.
It would have been an uncle.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. When it comes through with uncle, there's a feeling of something being over the course of years.
Yeah.
Not just like something someone does. It's the way someone is.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
There's something about like trying to mask it, but towards the end, not very well.
Yeah.
And the feeling is I'm kind of dealing with depression. If anything, I feel like this person probably did a pretty good job in some context of hiding what was going on. The feeling is I'm not sharing this with people, so. I know it's sensitive, and I want to be as careful as I can with it.
You don't have to sugarcoat anything.
Yeah.
If you see something, I can handle it.
Yeah.
I can handle it, so.
In a reading, symbolically, when people go like that, they're placing some form of accountability externally. When they go like that, they're placing accountability internally. He's doing this to me.
Okay.
So this is very much on me. Let me figure out what this is. Thank you. Okay. This is a message I want to kind of deliver, and it's something they do frequently say, but it comes through extra in this case. She does not want her death to be how we remember her when it comes to like her life. And just recently there was a conversation that was had. People were basically like, look, let's focus on her life. And I need to emphasize this because she's coming through a lot. She's having me talk about her passing and the circumstances that she went. She doesn't feel like when she went, she had full closure with the people around her. It's almost like I want there to be a release of any anger, any frustration, any resentment, any family tension, any family conflict. She wasn't able to have closure or really convey her feelings to the full extent. And the feeling is basically, I die without being able to have a resolve.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
The most amount of sense. I mean, do you want me to?
Sure.
I don't know whether.
At this point, you can. Yeah.
No, we don't know how she died. My grandmother Patty, my mom, they had been like estranged for a little while. They were super close, but super up and down.
Right.
And my mom got a weird feeling at a party, and made my dad take her home, and just like felt uneasy for a while. And then she had made my dad go over to her house a couple days later to check on her, and she was dead. And so she had been there for a few days, and no one knows if she committed suicide or if she accidentally killed herself because she was on medication for things. And so she would take a pill, go to sleep, and then maybe she woke up, forgot she took it.
Right.
Or did she, like, we don't know, and that's like haunted my mom, and like we talk about it like all the time.
Sure. Let me see what we got. Ooh. Okay. There are no real feelings of, I killed myself here. There's no real feelings of, I committed suicide. People have said that they would have left a note. And the feeling that comes through from her end is basically like, I don't feel like I'm in the mindset when this happens to kill myself. That's not my mindset. That's not what I'm intending to do. She, from her end, has released this. She wants you to know she didn't kill herself.
Okay. That's super intense.
It's a lot, I'm sure.
I just have one thing. We have felt things in this house, and
all good things.
All good things. Is there any way you can take a little walk around?
We've always sort of speculated there could be like some ghost dance parties happening around while we're here.
I'm really excited to see what Tyler has to say about it.
Energy-wise, like up this stairway and in here. It's just good to keep in mind that there's like a higher kind of rate of energy. So you might notice things, just kind of keep this area in mind. There's a presence of a woman that comes through pretty strongly. And it's like very much in here for some reason and like up there. So if you see someone out of the corner of your eye, don't worry. It's all good.
Is it all good?
It's all good, friendly, but connected to the house in some way. And it's just very like kitchen oriented and up the stairway.
We're always having issues with like the televisions and tech and sound, and it's not like traditional like, oh, you know, it's really weird how the TV will shut on and off, the Wi-Fi will go in and out. And I feel like whoever's here partying is like tech addicted, but not quite good at it.
Right. No, there are times where, I mean, I think things do come through electricity. It's a conduit of energy, and so they sometimes will use it, and sometimes not well. But yeah, I was having to worry about it. I feel great.
Okay, good.
Like it's an amazing, beautiful house.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks,
buddy.
Information can kind of come in and be a little overwhelming, so I'm going to try to kind of dissect it and give each piece of information.
Okay.
One of the main emphasis that I'm putting on is a reference to this younger individual who would have died tragically. And I feel like that's obviously a big area of emphasis. I do want you to know too, this individual had a lot to look forward to. So in the way this comes across, I just want you to know this does not in any way, shape, or form feel like a suicide to me. There's a very distinct reference to like the day of, or in a 24-hour period. They're kind of, this feels like almost clairaudient. I go from being in a very loud place to being in a very quiet place. It's putting a very alone feeling with this, almost like, oh, I'm kind of getting rid of people, like, I kind of want to get out of here. It's kind of the way I would describe it. The feeling is either like leaving a place because it's too loud, or hey, like, I need some quiet time.
I understand.
They're having me talk about cognizance awareness. It's a feeling of like, I should know how to get from point A to point B, like where I'm at. But for some reason, I feel confused. His mindset didn't feel clear before he transitioned, and it's just because of something that would have been in his system that, to me, feels like something he would not have been used to dealing with or metabolizing. It feels like my body even. I'm feeling it more in my legs. I feel kind of like numb. It feels like having difficulty walking in some capacity. So that's definitely more than just taking a drink.
No, that makes sense.
And it is questionable. It would obviously imply that someone did this.
Well, we think he was drugged.
There's so much of an emphasis on the investigative side of this that this person's not even having me talk about the passing itself as much as they're having me talk about the investigation after. Okay. And there's a reason. When it came to an investigation around this death, the thing is, there's this feeling of just like error, like just a lot of error, like human error, to be honest. That's his like #1 message here is like, even beyond his cause of passing, interestingly, it's like, look at the details of the investigation. It doesn't add up. And that is one of the big truths that I feel like we're meant to kind of take away from today. So does that make sense for you?
It makes sense,
okay.
Yeah.
So the thing is that what's very distinctly being acknowledged is for some reason in the 2-month period after this passing, it does feel like in some capacity this would be reopened in some way.
What's important, I think, of the 2 months is when Kevin Gannon and his team started investigating the Smiley Face Killers.
So that would be the relevance.
Yeah, that was the next couple months. What happened was we looked up and down. He was found in a creek, and the detectives told me that he was there the whole time in the creek. And the Smiley Face detectives do not believe that he was in the creek the whole time. I like to believe that, you know, he was in the creek the whole time. They're telling me that he was only in the water for a couple of days, and I don't want to think about,
of course,
where he was the other 2 weeks.
I don't know how to explain this, but for some reason I feel like he would have gotten really, 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 really cold before he was ever in the water. And I know this is very strange to say, but he's not putting an emphasis of being in the water. I feel like I'm in nature. What I will say, just to take away from this at the very least, is I can tell that he was not in the water for that entire time.
Yeah, that was hard to hear, but I have to hear it.
Well, I hope that provides some hope that this situation, is going to be looked at again.
Right, so that would be good news.
That makes sense, yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if there's another investigation opened into this, and honestly, I feel like answers are gonna come. What I would say is, I don't feel that he experienced a lot of pain, and I want you to know that, that's a big thing.
Thank you.
I want you to know when this comes through, there's a feeling of just like, I'm okay, I'm at peace. But the feeling is I didn't feel that he was afraid. I didn't feel like he was afraid.